Keep going.
Yeah, I was just saying that most people, do things in a big push and then stop when they, when things don't happen as quickly as they want. You've just slow and steady. Have you won the race yet?
Not yet. Now, it could just be boredom, though,
Uh,
on my part.
where's the destination anyway?
I don't know, man. This is nice. What you say about the fair, and I know it's heartfelt because you've been involved in the California fair scene longer than I have, and you have had so many different roles in it. How many? I mean, can you rattle them off?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let rattle them off.
When I first started at Southern Fair.
What year are we talking?
Like 91 maybe?
Okay, 91.
Something like that.
The fair is in Devore?
Yeah, Devore.
Okay.
When I first came out, they had auditions. And all of the guild masters would all come into a big room. They held it at the San Bernardino University.
Okay.
And you would get up and they would give you scenes to do. You get up to scenes. And then it was kind of like college rush week.
Okay.
Like the fraternities, basically all the guilds would come down and say, here's why you should be in our group. And they'd like see you first. And then they'd kind of try to recruit you.
Oh,
so
okay.
they'd come down and they'd be like, come to us, we'll feed you lunch. And the other one's like, we'll feed you lunch and dinner and you get a donkey or whatever. They like keep adding things on.
Well, why didn't everybody just join the donkey thing? That seemed
that's
like
the one I did.
40 acres and a mule, right?
So I remember it was so fun because different groups come up and they tell you about their group. They tell you like why you should do theirs. And
do you remember what you read or what you performed?
Improv scenes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was improv scenes. And that was the year Leslie Patterson, who was Kevin Patterson's wife, and Kevin Patterson was the son of Phyllis Patterson, who started the Ren Faire. So she decided she wanted to put together a troupe of performers. So she chose like 8 of us, I think about 8, to be the original Lord Mayor's players, and they give us shows all over the Shire all day long, and we were fools, but also we had stage shows.
So the Lord Mayor's players.
Mm-hmm. That was the
very number
first.
1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
you're a street character, but are you? Or you just said you're doing shows all over the world? I mean, the site.
This world. Yeah. So we ran around and we were involved in every single show that was the big, all the Queen show, the Lord Mayor show, this show, all these things. And it was, I think one of the good things is we were all new, so none of us knew that we didn't have to work for 9 hours straight without rest. So it was very good.
And you were young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that too. When I started, they said you should take a break every day, and I forgot to, and I just would do all 10 hours the fair was open. Yep. And at the end, I'd be tired, but I was 18, so who gives a damn?
Exactly. It was great, and then I kind of understood that I could try all different things at the fair. I was a crier a little bit. I even was in the court one year. I was Sir Philip Sidney, very fancy, and I tried a bunch of different things out at the fair, and then there was this group called the None Such Players.
None Such Players.
None Such Players. They were led by the previous entertainment director, Kevin Brown, who was an Imagineer and a tremendous talent. He had this group that just did wild. They could get away with anything. They did performances for the Queen where they would do, they did Pope fiction. The Tale of the False Pope. They did. Okay. They originally did Testicles in the Sack of Rome.
Testicles in the Sack of Rome.
And that it was just a short skit for the Queen, and until she ran them off and told them she would have them all killed or whatever. And
it's good to be the Queen. It's like having the remote control. You don't have to channel up, channel down. Just go, get out of here. I'll have you killed.
Those were wild days, and so I joined with one of the guys who'd been in that group on the Nine Such Players, Richard Meritzer, put together a group called Sound and Fury, and a few of us joined that and started doing improv, and that led to stage shows. They gave us time for improv, and then doing that at Northern and Southern California fairs for years before I also did. I was doing Taming the Shrew and stuff with another group, but anyway, that's when we started traveling. The first fair we ever did outside of California.
You're not allowed over here in this area at this time.
Oh, sorry, man. Sorry.
Not yet. Yeah.
Director walking by right now.
I am.
Hope she's this blonde lady right there is our boss. Lady right there. I'm not really touching her, but it looks like we are.
She's small.
So she actually is that tall. So Sound and Fury was where I met you.
Yeah.
Right. We met at either this fair or the Southern Fair, and Sound and Fury. And let me explain it. You tell me how close I am. Okay. You would do Shakespeare plays, but make them silly and very, very funny and comedic. No audience volunteers. It was just the three of you. Other groups would do audience volunteers. You guys decided, we'll do the comedy and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had 4 or 5 different scripts.
Well, yes, you're very close.
I'm very close.
Yes.
He didn't say I was accurate. It's very close.
I didn't realize that people could do this for a living. And I imagine it was with you too when you first started. Did you know people could make a living doing this?
Well, yes, but I come from the East Coast Ren Faire vibe where all the stage acts are pros. No offense. That so when you see the people that are on stage, and my first year working in the business is '85, and I was a street character and a town crier, which meant I was kind of like a stage manager. The people that I had to hawk crowds for were pros that were being paid big coin to be there. And the Maryland Fair was a non-hat. No, they were a hat fair back then. And so I knew these guys were making money. The long answer is I did know you can make money right away. So yeah, I come from a different background in that concept.
Then you know the California fairs. It used to be, it was all weekend warriors. Everyone had real jobs. Real jobs, what am I saying? But anyway, jobs other than the fair.
Yeah.
And they would come out here on the weekend and just be wild and party at night and drink a lot and then go back to their normal lives. It was like this, this thing that you just did. And if you got $20 a day from the administration, like $20, I'm going to buy some food. You know, it was like, no one was here for money.
But a lot of that tone of coming here for the joy and the party vibe of it, nothing wrong with that, is still present. And it's still noticeable, I would say. Not at Southern anymore because that fair doesn't have after hours camping and stuff, whereas this fair pretty much does. I don't stay here anymore. I used to stay here, so I was very, very close to it. You stay here still?
Yeah, I love it. And I love that community, but I just didn't understand.
And you're a big part of it.
Thanks. I didn't understand that you could travel and make money doing this. I came out to LA to act, and I was just kind of doing this on the side. I wanted to.
So what year was that when you realized that you could make money at it?
Well, it was late 90s. We went. So Sound and Fury didn't happen until like 98 or something.
Okay.
Right, so maybe I didn't start in 91. I don't know. Anyway, we started traveling.
By the way, I'm sitting down with Shelby Bond.
Thanks.
I never introduced. But that's how I do it. That's how I've decided I'm going to do it now. We're just going to start talking. And there's a little graphic. There's a graphic, and I've already put a graphic underneath you. It says Shelby Bond. They know who I am already.
Oh. I'm sitting here with Brian Howard.
You can say that and there's people behind us who clearly have lost their cell phones and the fair is almost closed. He's the last show of the day. All right, so Sound and Fury does something in the late 90s. Where do they go?
The first fair we go to outside of California is Arizona.
Okay.
And we didn't understand how fairs worked outside of Northern and Southern California. Because for us, it was not just parties, but it was this nightlife and it was night shows and just a different thing. So
It's a little bit of a different vibe. As somebody who started in the East and came out here, there's the Renaissance Fair industry, and then there's the West Coast industry, and the two are kind of different.
Yeah. I remember. There's a little bit of a
no insult to either, by the way.
No. There's a little bit of a lewd story, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. Because there's jokes.
Don't say the names. No names. No names. Unless you want to boast.
Right. So Brittany. No. Anyway. So here's how it happened. They're walking us around and showing if this one woman is like showing us around the fair. So
this is in Arizona.
In Arizona. So we just got there and she's like, this is where you stay, this is and something caught me like a thorny bush and drew blood. And I was like, oh my God. And she goes, well, you have to be careful. 90% of the stuff out here wants to maim you and the other 10% wants to kill you. And I go, what percent wants to sleep with us? And she was like, oh. And it was not funny. It was not funny at all. I was like, oh, it's just, And so I was going up to people that Saturday during the day being like, where are the parties tonight? People were like, it's Saturday. And I was like, yeah, where are the parties? Like, I didn't get it. And they were like, they just didn't get it at all.
I don't know if you can still hear us. Let's keep talking, Shelby. And if I have to put subtitles, but as you can see, the fair is closing right now, which means it's 6 o'clock. This is a little goodbye, the fair's over thing. But that's it. It's just that. So I'm going to talk so you don't miss the brilliance of Mr. Bond here. That's kind of it. So I think we can go back. All right.
As the sun descends in the sky, we bid you good people goodbye. That's the.
And I don't know it yet. I don't know it. After all these years. So you were a rude awakening. Well, now some fairs do have after-hour stuff, but nothing like the California vibe. we're digressing to other stuff. I want to ask you more about. So you did Sound and Fury, but now you've been in several other groups. You were in a knife throwing group. You were in you
Yeah.
tell me the other acts you were in.
So it wasn't long before I realized I could make a living on doing fairs.
Yeah.
And so I started doing fairs and fringe festivals, and making a living. But I was, unlike the East Coast people, I would just fly in and fly out every weekend.
Which is what I do now.
Yeah. So that's what I never stayed over at these places. I would just fly in and out.
Yeah.
And so I kind of felt like I had a secret identity. And it's a beautiful one because here I am trying to do film and TV in LA, but flying out and doing great big shows on the weekend, come back in. It was like this other world that I got to live in. I loved it.
Mhm.
And so after Sound and Fury, I decided I wanted to try a bunch of different things. So I started putting together shows. I did a Dutch chef show, a knife throwing show called the Van Cleaver Brothers.
Can you still do the accent?
I don't know. It was
Well,
different than German. I had to learn because
say
instead of that there, it was dat der. So
Dat
there's D's instead of Z's with the German versus
Yeah.
Dutch. Anyway, it was fun. And so we were in big clogs, and it was the world champion knife thrower throwing knives. So that was fun to write something totally different.
With Jack Deck.
Mhm. And then from that, I started doing the Magnificent Humble Boys. So I got another person in to do that. We would recreate an entire Russian circus. Kind of a trunk show, silly circus thing.
And I've seen that.
And we had
I've seen all these acts. They're all very good.
So much fun doing that.
So now that you're on in the Ren Faire world, you are willy nilly.
Mhm.
Are we set? Do you think? Do you think that this is it? Is this the final? Now, obviously, your career, because you do fringe festivals. You're very creative. You could hit it. You never know. The way we both know how entertainment works, and especially in California, you never know who's going to watch your show or is going to ask you to sit in on some filming of what have you. But at least in the Ren Faire world, is this the final incarnation for Shelby Bond?
No.
Sorry to put you on the...
No, it's all right because here's the thing. Like I wasn't ever great at branding myself. That's why I've done all these different groups and stuff.
Okay.
But all I wanted to do was create something new all the time.
Yeah.
And so at the same time, I was creating shows for
You
Ren
don't want to stay this? Don't you think you've hit upon it?
Yes, I have hit upon it because as willy-nilly, I can be willy-nilly.
Okay.
But here, I'm doing 3 different shows a day. I do.
But as willy-nilly.
as willy-nilly.
So willy-nilly
So I
is the
finally
thing.
found-
As I'm Broom.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Didn't you just say no a few seconds ago when I asked you that, though?
Yeah, knowing that,
Or are you
like, will I
kidding?
do the same thing? Every year, I've got to create a new thing.
That's not what I meant. I meant I meant you'll write new shows and scripts, which I don't know. I'll talk them out of it. But now they're doing a little goodbye sleep. Sweet. Don't worry. They know we work here. It should be no problem. But willy-nilly, you've arrived. Let's be honest. You've arrived. I've now shared we've now been on the same fair at Bristol, at Florida, and I knew this guy was in the California world. So you're out there in the world doing it.
Here and Southern, and yeah.
Southern, yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna be willy-nilly. It's nice to have a character that, and what I think is smart is when people do it, have something. So it's like if it's the Kamikaze Fireflies, which is another show on the circuit, you wouldn't be like, oh, let's go see that. If they had a new show, they wouldn't name the new show something else. They'd just be like, let's go see whatever the Kamikaze Fireflies are doing because I like them.
Right.
Or the Bruin show, even if you did a different show, you do it under the Bruin name.
So your shows aren't listed as willy-nilly presents?
That's what I'm now doing. Is that I'm now willy-nilly this show, willy-nilly this show. So people can come see, and they know I'm a trusted enough commodity, which in the UK, this is what I love about stand-up comedy in the UK. Different from America. In America, you know a good comic and you go see that show because there's a good comics and good comics in it. In the UK, a lot of times they go to a good venue because they know that venue has good comics. And you don't necessarily know who you're going to see. So what I mean by that is you come knowing that there's going to be something good even if you don't know exactly what it's going to be. You know that thing.
This is my fault. Shelby wanted to sit on the stage, and I said, no, we'll do this because the sun is over there.
They can see all this stuff going on. I think it's fun. They're getting the full experience.
So finish your point now that it's getting a little quiet.
My point is it getting quiet?
God, I hope so.
Anyway, my point is that I figured out how to finally kind of settle in on something that people know I'm going to offer them something that's decent. And this is a big point I want to make is as a performer or an artist of any kind, how do you in LA, I tried for so long to do film and TV, and you're waiting on so many people to give you permission to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
With a place like Faire or festivals or whatever you're doing, we got the opportunity to create what we wanted to do, and
Sure.
and not have to wait on 50 people and a project and all the money. And anytime I create a new show, I can send it out to either fringe festivals or Ren Fairs and try it out, and people are willing to explain. I'm known enough to where they'll let me play and experiment.
Yeah.
and find
Now
out.
tell these guys about your new incarnation show that I just watched, and it was a lot of fun.
Thanks. So I think a lot of us that come to Ren Faire, we're at some time in our life gamers. Did some kind of RPGs like D&D or whatever. So I've created a show called Dungeons and Shakespeare, which is brand new. I've done it 3 times.
So I just witnessed the third
time. And it's obviously evolving, but the goal is to combine Shakespeare characters and shows with a Dungeons and Dragons framework where people in the audience are deciding what happens next, making choices.
You're telling a story, and he has a big, giant foam rubber 20D, and they make the decisions based on that. And of course, you're an improv background guy, so whatever the dice rolls, it's gonna lead to some kind of humor and jokes, which is a lot of the comedy in my show too. So I really appreciate that, and I think you're right. It's only the third time you do it. You're gonna get. It's as if they said, "Let's fuck with Brian's filming." They're literally.
They just gave you dirty looks, all of them.
I did not.
Yeah, they did.
And it's really awesome, and I think it's going to go places, and I think that it's fun, and of course all the gamer nerds, of which I am one. I'm not a D&D nerd, but I like games in general. So next year, can you want to tell anybody where they can find you? You have your bona fides. You want to mention that on Facebook, blah, blah, blah.
About Dungeons and Shakespeare,
sorry.
I was just going to say real quick, I think it's great when you get a framework, and then once with any scene with improv or whatever, you get a strong frame that you can act within. Then you can really bounce things around a lot.
Then you can play.
So the skeleton's being built now for the show. I can't wait to take it around. I'm going to be doing it at FLARF in Florida this year. I'm going to be at Southern and Northern California doing the shows, and I hope to be back at Bristol Fair near Chicago and Milwaukee, and up at fringe festivals too. But every day I'm out here, I feel grateful that we found a place to do what we do.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Shelby Bond. I've known him for a while. He's done many, many things at the Ren Faire, and now he's doing these great shows.
Thank you, my friend.
And you know who I am.
Yeah, that's Brian Howard.
You don't need to introduce me. All right, let's say goodbye.
Thanks.